All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. If you just came in, I was telling everybody that um, on Wednesdays, congratulations if you were at Shine yesterday and you got an award. Let me start with that. Um, on Wednesdays, they want us to start doing practice questions for the end of course exam. So I'll be putting little practice assignments in um, Canvas for you to do that link you to the Progress Learning application. It'll say USA Test Prep. But those questions, that's what they're there for. Before I let you, and it's not going to take long, the one that I have set up for you won't take long. Some have done it, some haven't. And that's because Wednesdays are a short class. But because today's a longer class, we're going to do the regular assignment and then I'll stop and let you um, work on that. So what I'm going to do first is give you a link for a Nearpod, and we're going to do pedigree. And then while you're doing that, I'll upload the worksheet that goes along with it. So this Nearpod is going to take you through a video on pedigree because pedigree is our next unit. And give me 1 second to give you the link. So I need everybody to log in and do this activity. And when we finish this, I'll upload a worksheet that goes with it, but you can work on the worksheet only if you have already done the progress learning. So, and we're going to do this together. This is not going to be in student mode. Oh. All right, there it is. All right, so while you're logging in, I will share my screen. Now it is a video, but it stops at certain points and asks you questions. So I'm looking for 100% participation so that we can go through the questions and move on in a timely fashion. Okay. All right. So again, I put a link in the chat. Um, for the Nearpod. I am sharing. Okay, once it starts, it's going to ask a question almost immediately. As far as Canvas is concerned, like I said, we are in the next unit called Pedigree. So this video is about pedigree. And the first question it's going to ask you is, what do you know about pedigree? Now, if you have pet dogs, sometimes you know a little something about pedigree. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to log in. Again, we still don't have everybody, but I'm going to go. Everybody else is late. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, it's buffering. It's a lot of buffering. I think it's my screen is frozen. Okay, there we go. Okay. So first question is, what do you already know about pedigree? So I'm going to take this screen out, let you take a minute to answer that question. So we are in genetics, and we have been talking about Punnett squares and inherited traits. And now we're specifically going to talk about pedigree. So we're going to learn how to do a different kind of chart, and we're going to learn how to read it. So that's what this video is about, how to read, how to make a pedigree chart, how to read a pedigree chart. So I'll give you another minute to type an answer. All right, there's 7 people here, so I should have 7 answers. Okay. I'm missing Jacoby. Okay, nothing. Don't know about it. Okay. All right, a lot of people don't. LaCoria says animals are they okay. Yeah, pedigree, family tree. Okay, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about. Family trees. Exactly. All right. Jacoby, are you with us? Don't see you on my list. All right, I'm hopefully you'll get in next. I'm gonna keep going, but next question, I want to see your name on there.
So I have a really awesome picture for you. Here it is. Oh, it might look like circles and squares to you, but make no mistake, this is no ordinary picture. This is a pedigree. A pedigree is like a family tree. It can show information about an inherited trait passed across generations. And this one is actually a small pedigree of us. Well, our human forms. See, that's me, my sister, my mom, my dad. I'm not arbitrarily picking random shapes to represent us either. In a pedigree, the circles represent females, squares represent males.
Okay, I'm gonna take the teacher question out of here. All right, in a pedigree chart, males are represented by what? And females are represented which shapes? So that's what you're looking at. And this is important because, like I said, you'll have to read a chart, you'll have to draw a chart. So you need to make sure that your chart is drawn correctly. All right, so there are rules to this. Just like the last time where we had the rule that we're going to use capital letters for dominant and recessive letters. For recessive, this one has rules as far as what shapes and whether the shape is shaded or empty. So please pay attention to all of that information as they give it. All righty. We still have one person who has an answer, but yes, the squares are males and the circles are going to be females.
One way you can remember that is the letter C for circle comes before the letter S for square in the alphabet. Alphabetically, the letter F for female comes before the letter M for male. I've got to think about letters of the alphabet, though. I realize that might not work for everyone. So if we take a look at this pedigree, these Roman numerals represent generations. There's 2 generations here. This between my parents is called a marriage line. This line here connects parents to children, so you could see there are 2 children from this marriage. Now you may wonder, why are some of these shapes shaded? What does that mean? Well, the shaded shapes represent a trait that is being tracked in the pedigree. Here are 2 important facts about the particular trait I am choosing to track. Fact number 1 about this trait being tracked is that it's recessive. Recall that in typical Mendelian inheritance, dominant alleles, if present, will lead to the expression of dominant traits. Recessive alleles only are expressed when the dominant allele is not present. Now, fact number 2 about this trait is that it is an autosomal recessive trait. Just a reminder that autosomal means a chromosome that is not a sex chromosome. In human body cells, there are 46 chromosomes. The first 44, 22 pairs, are autosomes. The last 2, 1 pair, are sex chromosomes.
Okay, another question. And we are going to get to karyotypes. That's our next unit. And it's where we have to map out. But do know that in humans, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 altogether, and 22 of them are body cells. I mean, not body cells. They are the chromosomes that code for your body, okay? And the other 2 code for your maleness or femaleness. All right, everybody's kind of slow on this one. Autosomes is the correct answer. Let's go. Autosomes. And folks, I should see nothing down here where it says no answer. Everybody needs to participate. It does keep track of who is participating and who is, even though it's not on the screen, it tells me who's participating and who isn't. So please log in and participate. Your name should appear in the answer on the answer sheet. All right, so the correct answer is autosomes. That's a word you need to remember. And again, that just refers to the chromosomes that have the coding for all of the characteristics that go on with the rest of your body. Okay.
So this trait is not sex-linked since it is autosomal, and that means it does not need to be written as coefficients on the sex chromosomes. So what is the trait we're tracking? Attached earlobes. Yes, you might not realize it, but look around and you'll see that humans, they have free or attached earlobes. Although we want to point out that there may be more than just these 2 categories for earlobes. And while this example is used often in basic genetics, there's probably more to this than just one simple gene. For our example, let's assume a simple gene trait, and that free earlobes is dominant, meaning at least one dominant allele must be around. Attached earlobes is recessive, showing when no dominant allele is present. So if we were to put the genotypes next to each of these shapes, what would they be? Well, the shaded ones would be easy, because we just mentioned that attached earlobes is the trait we're tracking, and it's an autosomal recessive trait. So if we use the letter E, then these shaded shapes must be lowercase e. Any capital dominant letter, and the individual would have to have free earlobes and not be shaded.
All right, I want to pause it there for a minute because some of you are still confusing this. When you pick a trait, you use one letter, and whatever letter that is. So in this case, I guess she picked E for ear or earlobe. Then that is the letter you use for both the dominant and the recessive trait. To express dominance, you write a capital letter, and to express recessive, you use a lowercase letter. But you don't have 2 different letters to represent heterozygous traits, okay? And again, she has shaded the circles, and the circles mean that they have attached earlobes. So that, and she's telling you in the key that means they both, in order for a recessive trait to show up, you have to have both recessive genes. If you have one recessive and one dominant, then that trait is masked, it's hidden. It's there, but it's hidden, but it's not going to show up. So dominant traits are expressed. Recessive traits can only be expressed if you have 2 genes for that trait.
Not be shaded. So let's look at individual 2 in the first generation. That's our father. He's not shaded, so he can't be little e. What about big E? Well, there's a problem. See his children? Us? Each child must get an allele from each parent. So if I received a little e from my mom, then I had to get the other little e from my dad. Therefore, he can't be big E, or he'd have no little e to give. His genotype must be the heterozygote genotype, big E, little e. He's what we call a carrier, though. He still has a phenotype of free earlobes because of that one capital, but he carries the lowercase allele.
All right, I'm going to pause it there again. She's not asking a question, but again, I'm pausing for clarity. In order for a recessive trait to show up, you have to get one from each parent. So what she's saying is that's if you know what the children are, you can backtrack to what the parents have to be. Okay, that is the point of drawing the Punnett square. Now, it does just because it doesn't show up physically, and that was one of the questions on the human face. The question asks you, how can the children have a trait that the parents don't have? It's not showing in the parents. The phenotype in the parents is not showing that trait. But for the children to have it, they had to get it from their parents, so they had to have been carrying, that's a vocabulary word, they had to be a carrier for that recessive trait.
Now, that's just one tiny pedigree. Let's look at a big family reunion. Well, an imaginary one, because I have to confess, I don't really know whether our relatives have free or attached earlobes. I thought about sending a survey to them, but it just felt a little awkward. So here we go. Big, giant, imaginary family of relatives. Okay, just to make sure you understand this, how many siblings does my dad have? Well, look, here's my dad in generation 2, number 4. He has 3 siblings, all brothers, right here. What is the phenotype of my paternal grandfather? Well, look, here's my dad. Here's my dad's dad. That would be my paternal grandfather. And because his square is shaded, that means his phenotype is attached earlobes. Okay, so let's go ahead and label all these shaded shapes with the genotype little e, since we know that's the trait we're tracking. Now take a look at generation 1, individual 1. That would be my paternal grandmother. What's her genotype? We know it's not little e, or her shape would be shaded. But if we went with big E, could that still work? Yes, all the offspring could get a big E from her and a little e from my grandfather. But what about big E? Would that work too? Yes, because the children could still get a big E from her and a little e from my grandfather. It may be less of a probability, but it's possible, and therefore we must list both, that she is a big E, or big E, because we don't know. All the offspring of my paternal grandparents, though, they're going to have to be big E. Remember, they have to get an allele from each parent, and that means they're going to have to pick up that little e for my grandfather. They will be heterozygotes, and that's the only option here. Pause this video and try to solve the right side of this pedigree now. Ta-da! Imaginary family done. So how'd you do? Well, here are some of the tricky ones. Did you see that generation 1, individual 4, has to be a carrier only? Because if not, then the shaded individual children would not be able to get the little e that they have, because they have to get a little e from both parents. How about individual 9? This female married in, but that's not the reason that she can be either big E or big E. If you look at the children, they aren't shaded. So while they will have to get a little e from number 8, as that's all number 8 can give, the other capital letter can be obtained from number 9 regardless of whether she's big E or big E. Remember, one option may be more likely, but if it's possible, you need to include both. Now, remember how we made a big deal about how this was an autosomal pedigree? Well, what if you're dealing with a sex-linked trait and therefore a sex-linked pedigree? There are a lot of sex-linked recessive traits. Color blindness and some male patterns of baldness can be sex-linked. Let's...
Okay. True or false? Colorblindness, sex-linked. Wake up, everybody. Participate. I still got 2 people that haven't answered. All right, it's sex-linked, and it's most of the time when something is sex-linked, it's carried on the X chromosome, which means there is no gene to mask it on the Y chromosome. So that means that with color blindness, it's it's predominantly shows up in males because there is nothing to counteract that X chromosome. But in females, you can have a gene on the other chromosome that doesn't that masks it.
Let's
So
pretend
there are
now that we're told
more
this is a
males
sex-linked
than
recessive
females.
trait. I'm going to keep the old labeled pedigree here that showed an autosomal recessive trait just for comparison, but now here's a brand new sex-linked pedigree. First of all the females, the circles, should have an XX to indicate two X sex chromosomes by them. Remember, females have two X chromosomes. Males should have an XY to indicate an X and a Y sex chromosome. That's always a good thing to do first. Now remember that we were told this pedigree is tracking sex-linked recessive traits, so the shaded one here has the sex-linked recessive trait. A reminder from our sex-linked video about how this works. Let's use the letter R for an allele. Now recall that females that do not have the trait, they can be either this or this, and the heterozygote genotype, this, is a carrier. She doesn't have the trait herself because of the dominant allele, but she's carrying it. Only a female that is this will have the sex-linked recessive trait. So if I'm looking at this pedigree, what would the genotype for individual 1 in generation 1 be? Well, notice here she has 3 children, and one of her sons here is shaded. Where does her son get his Y sex chromosome from? The father. Where does he get his X sex chromosome from? His mother. Individual 1 doesn't have the trait, or she would be shaded, but she must be a carrier if her son received an X chromosome with a recessive allele on it. Now, what about individual 2 in generation 2? Well, she can be this, like her mother, but look, she could also be this, because it's possible to get one of those from each parent. If it's possible, you must include it. Now, pause the video and try the last female. How'd you do? Remember, the key here is to always check and make sure that when you look at a child, they have to be able to get one of their alleles from each parent. Now remember that both of these examples were recessive. It doesn't have to be that way. On our handout, you can try one that follows an autosomal dominant trait. If it's a dominant allele that you're tracking, remember it would only take one dominant allele for a person to have that trait. Another quick thing to point out is sometimes you will see pedigrees that are half shaded. Well, that's just awesome because they're basically letting you know that the half shaded ones are carriers. If I wanted to turn our first one into that half shading, then it would look like this. Mapping and understanding pedigrees is important, especially as we continue to make it.
Okay. Answer this question in a pedigree card. What does a half shaded square or circle indicate? Okay, so understand that the circle or square will be fully colored in if they have the trait. If they don't have the trait, but they are a carrier of the trait, we shade it with a half of the circle or half of the square will be shaded.
To make advancements in understanding how genetic disorders are inherited. Well, that's it for the Muba sisters, and
Okay, and stay curious. All right, so what I'm going to do, because I don't believe I uploaded it to your class yet, there is a worksheet that goes with this video, and so I'm going to upload it in just a second because I don't think I did it already. Hold on. You stop sharing, right? Sharing the grade book. Let me go to homepage. So while I'm doing that, those of you who have not done the progress learning, please do that. So, Tegan. Okay, so I do have 4 of you who have done it. So you, on your homepage, you should see something that says Punnett Square practice questions. When you click on it, it will take you into, okay. And if you finish, just hang in there. Um, Let me admit this person because they're in the wrong class, but All right. Hi, Tegan. I think you just logged into the wrong class. Okay. So if you've already done the progress learning and it's only a couple of questions, and then when you submit, it'll just let me know that you submitted and I'll go in and check for it. All right, so give me 1 minute and I will upload this assignment for you. And it is the worksheet that goes with the video. And I'll walk through it with you for starters. I thought I uploaded it, but I didn't. And as far as it puts zeros in already for the progress learning. Don't worry about that. I have to put in the grade manually, so I'll take off the late. It's really not late, but because it shouldn't have been late until Friday. But I see they already put zeros in. So if you see a zero in there, not to worry. As soon as you hit submit, uh, I'll fix that. All right, so you might have to refresh your page because I just added it. So I'll share. And again, this worksheet goes, so it'll say video recap of a pedigree video recap. When you open it, it will look like this. All right, and you are created. So the first box at the top is going to be like your answer key. And they are dealing with the characteristic of being able to taste PTC, which is a chemical, and some people can taste it and some people can't. So it tells you in the directions, consider we are tracking the autosome recessive. So you might want to underline things like that. It is the recessive trait where you have to have two T's. They're using the letter T for taste. So the recessive alleles will be two lowercase t's to result in the inability to taste the chemical known as PTC. The ability to taste it is determined by the presence of the dominant allele. So we're going to use a capital T if they are able to taste it. Okay, so complete the chart. They've done the first row for you. So you're not only, if they're giving you the genotype in the first column, you are giving the phenotype, meaning can they taste it or can they not, based on their genetics. It says male or female, so they want to know, are you going to draw a square or a circle? And is it going to be shaded or not? Meaning, are they a carrier or do they have the trait? Okay, so you have to complete the box at the top first. And then the second step is that you're actually going to um, draw out, you're going to take a couple who has the ability to taste PTC, and they have two grown sons and one grown daughter. So you're building a pedigree. You're going to start with the parents. So that means you're going to start with a circle and a square, and then you're going to have that line that indicates they have three children. Two of the children are males and one is female. It says the sons have the ability to taste it, and the daughter is a non-taster. And then she marries another non-taster, and they have two sons. All right, so your job is to draw that pedigree based, and I only want you to do the first page. There's 2 pages to this, but I only want you to do the first page. I want you to uh, make the chart at the top, make your answer key. Then I want you to draw the pedigree and then answer 17, 18, and 19, and then stop there. Don't submit it, because then we're going to talk more about what to do with the second page. All I want you to do today is to get this first page done. Do not submit. Okay, we're going to talk more about this stuff on the second page later. It's enough that you're going to get this done. Now, if you haven't done progress learning, please do that first, and then this second. Okay. Again, you had probably had to refresh your page. It should be on your to-do list. I did find, because I wasn't sure whether you could go back and rewatch the video from the Nearpod. So I did put the unnearpoded version of the video in the YouTube playlist for you. So if you wish to watch that again, it is there. Don't submit it at all. When I see you, when I see you again, Monday. When I see you on Monday, I want you to actually, yeah, go ahead. Um, but just submit the first page, and then I'll do another box for the second page. Let's do that. If you finish, submit just the answers to the first page. Don't worry about the answers to the second page. That is not required at this time. Just 1 through 19. 1 through 19 have to be completed. So again, you are completing all the answers for the key at the top. That's 1 through 15. Drawing the pedigree is 16, and they give you a scenario. Whoops. Okay, hold on. And I'm not sharing. But they give you a scenario. It says design a autosomal recessive pedigree. That means you are drawing the family tree. And they're giving you the characteristics of the people who have to be in that family tree. So you're doing 2 generations. Actually, you're doing 3 generations, because the daughter gets married and has 2 sons. So there's 3 generations have to be represented on your family tree. Okay. All right. While you do that, I'll do attendance. All right, Tegan, you should be in another class. I don't know why you were logged into this class. All right, so repeat. Go ahead and you only have to do the first couple of questions, the first page of questions, and then submit just the answers for that page. And I'll create another Dropbox for the other page. But everybody should be working on um, this first page. And yes, if you go to Canvas, Canvas, the unit that we're in is pedigree. So you can look at vocabulary for pedigree there as well. Okay. The worksheet is not in the module. It's going to be on your to-do list. Okay, so everybody is present today, so that means I should have results from everyone today on the project learning. And again, do that first. If you haven't done it, do that first, and then um, come back and do the worksheet. All right, Malia and Michaela. It's not showing that you have logged in for that. Please log into the assignment, and LaCoria. Y'all have to do the project learning activity. Mm, All right, so again, I need Michaela, I need Malia, and LaCoria to do your progress learning activity. Everybody else, I have a score. If you, let me go to it should be, okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right, on your home page, you want to go to Punnett Square. On your list of things to do, it's your Punnett Square practice questions. When you click on that, it should take you to this. Yours is missing. There should have been a link. There should have been a link that took you. Okay, and you click on that start assignment. Mine is going to look a little different because I'm a teacher, but when you start the assignment, it should take you to the Canvas version of Progress. It should take you there. And so this is going to log in as me. As you want to log in as you. All right, so we're going to come out of that. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing. So back to my grade book. All right, so Michaela and LaCoria, you saw that. So please log in and make sure that you get that done. Thank you. Oh no. Now remember, when you draw your pedigree, you have to shade or not shade, depending on um, what you get. Okay. Um, Andrea, I'm going to send yours back. One, because you didn't shade anything, and two, like the video showed you, if you're not sure what the letter is, then you need to write both characteristics like she did. So I'm going to let you resubmit this. Okay. All right. So let me explain again what you need to do. When you draw your three generations, just like she did, you have to figure out, you already know what the parents are. So there shouldn't be a question mark. They have to have two alleles and they had to get one from mom and one from dad. So you have to figure out what what that's going to be. Whether they're a taster or a non-taster, you got to figure out what they have. If you don't know which one, you need to write the letter for both of them. If it's a possibility they could be either or, then you need to write both letters. Okay. If they are a carrier, then it's shaded halfway. If they have the trait, then you color it completely. Okay, those are the rules. Lines drawing horizontal mean they're married. Lines drawing um, per, vertical mean that they are the offspring.